Was it way back an owner of the beer can?
No, I can't remember. We were pretty young when they, before your dad even took it.
Oh, no, this is way back.
I know that. And now it was called always a beer can.
Like Story Spud used to tell me.
Yeah, that was way, way back. They never owned it then.
Do you actually remember the racetracks?
Yeah.
Oh, see that?
Oh, the way the horses ran.
Right.
Well, all my aunts all went with the jockeys. We were really pretty good. We'd always get a pretty good tip every once in a while. A guy getting out of town, he'd win the race.
Oh, okay.
They'd always leave him win his race so he could get out of town. All those. And then my aunts used to go with the jockeys. They'd always pass our house on Harrison Avenue, because when they were training, they'd always put a deal around their neck and go for about 5 miles. You know, the jockeys had to do a lot of walking, and but that's what we see them. One time he went by, he said to my mother, he said, "Mary," he said, "how much money you got?" Mama said, "Oh, about $20 left from yesterday." He said, "Well," he said, "take that $20 and bet it on this certain horse." He gave him the name, and because he had sent $2,000 out of town so it wouldn't cut down the average of his bet, you know. And so she did. Well, she won it was about 3 times more than if she bet. And we had bet pretty good. We used to go 15 days in Deer Lodge and 15 days in Anaconda, and then 30 days in Butte.
Yeah, Butte's session around 30.
It was 30, yeah. And 15 in Anaconda and 15 in Deer Lodge. But then when I started paying, when they started charging me to get in the damn train, I used to go for 4 bits because I was a little kid. Well, after that they started charging me $1. They left me home. They wouldn't take me because that was a half a bet. Because the bets were only $1, and they were bets made by people that were running they never had a deal like they have now with boards and stuff, and walk up and make your bet, and that
right.
You had made it to the man that would come to you, and you had certain guys that you'd make bet your money on him. It was an individual, not a track, you know. It was individual. And everybody had certain guys that they'd bet with. And then we go to Anaconda, take the damn train, and oh boy, I'll never forget, my Aunt Albina was going out with the mayor. There was a mayor of Butte then, and that's a long time ago. And so they took the train and they left me home. So I took the damn dog and took the dog for a walk, and he met another little dog and stayed with the dog. And when they come, and we had some old people that lived down below us, some old French people in a log cabin. And she took the dog and kept him so he wouldn't get run over. And so we told her the dog is lost, so we had everybody looking for the damn dog, and here he was chasing some other dog. Oh, we had quite a time.
Well, now you were born in Butte, weren't you?
Yes, I was born in Butte.
1902. 1902. And then your mom's name was what?
Michaud. Michaud, they call that in English. Michaud. And my father's name was Gay, but my name was G-U-A-Y, Canadian, G-U-A-Y. And Michaud we always called it Michaud, and you call it Michaud. Now it's with your pronunciation, now it's Michaud.
Well, did they know each other in Canada before they came here?
Oh yeah, they were all very good relatives. They're not relatives, but people that knew. They all hung around together. They were very good beer drinkers. Canadians drank a lot of beer.
Well, so what part of Canada did they know each other in?
Well, where they lived, right in town there, in that one town they had. They were all Canadians.
Do you remember what the town was?
Name where I say where we're at, where we come from.
Was it out of Quebec?
Quebec. See, it was a small town, but they were all related, and they had big families. God, you can go there, and they tell me now, if I went there, I would meet a lot of relatives because they all had 15 kids, and they all had big families at that time.
Well, why did they decide to come to Butte?
Well, they came with when they opened the mines here, and got all the men from Canada, and they were from all over they had some from Ireland, they had some from all different countries come here. They were all men. The ladies stayed home. All the people, but the ones that had a family, they came here. And my dad and mother, and I was the only child. My dad said, he looked at me once, he says, not again.
Well, where were you living when you were born?
Down on Harrison Avenue, down near C Street. That's where we came here, and my dad built a house there. But there was nothing but farms there. And C Street, they made C Street the corner lot there. That's where Westcom has his candy shop. He has his candy shop.
Shepherds.
So we had our little house right on the corner coming to town. And we'd walk from there. We had a horse and we had a wagon and we had all the stuff that you use, you know. And we lived there for a long, long time.
And what did your dad, was your dad a farmer there?
No, my dad was a miner. He worked as a miner.
Which mines was he working in?
Belmont Mine. He worked at Belmont Mine. When he get to the Belmont Mine, is right down this way, you know. And he would take a bunch of ore cars and bring them to the track and empty the ore cars into the train, and then they would ship the ore to get.
Oh, so he was a teamster. He ran.
Well, he wasn't. They didn't call him exactly a teamster. I don't know what they called him.
But he ran the ore.
Yeah, he emptied the ore, and then we got so that the cars were hitting his back so bad all the time that cancer started my dad's back, and he was very ill, and he took Chinese treatments and all out treatments, but the doctor had he died from the it was he caught a cold and then he died from the same thing, cancer, you know.
What year was that he passed
Oh
away?
God Almighty! I was quite young.
Well,
I can't think of. I hung around so long, can't think.
well, was he when he was driving the teams?
Well, he lived with us. He lived in our house.
Did he speak French or English?
Oh yeah, French and English both.
Well, would he talk to the horses in French?
Oh, I don't know. We suppose he'd call them all the names he might call them in French.
Yeah.
But we had our own horse. And then he told my mother if she'd build a barn, he'd get all the wood and everything ready for her to build a barn. By God, she went out and built herself a barn for the horse.
Did she like horses?
Oh, they didn't, if they went too fast, she didn't like them too good. But we had a horse and
then was your mom worked around the house?
oh yeah, she did, never worked. Never went that, one thing about the families never worked, you know what I mean, the mothers and they worked, they never worked. They were the boss of the house.
Was she a seamstress?
Yes, she was the first woman to make a pattern to cut clothes, you know, like you have a pattern shop now, and you go and you buy yourself a pattern. Well, she worked at a pattern shop and learned how to do that, and they used to cut clothes out of paper. If all the girls that were hookers, they'd all come down to the house and get their clothes cut out, and then the mother'd sew them up, and they'd be all dressed up.
So did your mom know some of the women that worked?
Oh, we knew them all. Well, there was about 8 of them that come in from Paris, and they had a place on Galena, and they had a little store and a little place where they sell candy or cigarettes and that, and then they had their house in the back of the store, and they would perform there, you know, and we'd wait lots of times. My mother would take me, they buy me a lot of candy and stuff, and she'd talk French to the girls, and we knew the place they lived in, and she had a hotel down there on Utah or somewhere towards the flats, you know. She had a place, and she kept all these one girls in that one building, and they all had their own rooms, and they were really nice people. We used to have a lot of fun with them. They used to treat us so well.
Well, who was the lady that had the hotel on Utah? Who was that?
Auger was her name. They called her Mrs. Auger.
So she was kind of the leader.
Well, she was the person that owned the building and rented the rooms.
I see.
And she had lots of times she'd rent to the men. They'd be coming in, and they'd rent a room. Well, they would take this room and wash their socks and hang them on the bedpost like that, and put their socks on. In the morning, they'd get up and be dressed up like millionaires, you know. They were all foreigners. They were all from all over. That's all I know. But my mother, we'd always knew them quite well, and they talked to us. And